The news on refugees keeps coming, and today is no exception. With a humanitarian crisis on our hands, the Biden administration has set a new low on the number of refugees resettled since the admissions program began. Along with this, we'll talk about a new initiative to provide government-funded representation, that's attorneys, to immigrant children in 8 cities. Join me. Let's get started. My name is Andres Mejer. Like a lot of you, I'm an immigrant. I lived here with no legal status for a long time. My family and I experienced a lot of the problems most immigrants deal with when trying to get their status in order. We were scammed by attorneys that took our money and did nothing for us. That's why I decided to become an immigration attorney, to help other immigrants like me deal with the immigration system. Going through an immigration process can seem hard and scary, but that's what I'm here, to help you figure it out and get you the solution you deserve. Please, if you find this video useful or know someone who can use the content I create, please share it. Hit a like and hit the bell button to subscribe to our notifications. So let's get to it. Lately, there's been a lot of news involving refugees. I even made 2 videos talking about the situation with the Afghan refugees and a second video talking about the southern border crisis and the refugees with the current Asian immigrants. If you like to watch those videos, I will leave the link in the comments below. Sadly, this topic is still on the news for all the wrong reasons. Now, the Biden administration is under fire because it has the lowest number of refugees resettled in the history of the admissions program. This is even after the promises made to revitalize the process largely stalled under former President Trump. Talking about the actual numbers, back to the closure of the fiscal year 2021, which happened at the end of September, we can see the Biden administration resettled 11,411 refugees, according to the State Department. This is even lower than prior year under Trump, which was 11,814. Several situations like the COVID pandemic or some missteps by President Biden led to a record low number of refugees being resettled. This is alarming, especially because it comes from a White House that during the campaign pledged to resettle as many as 125,000 people per year through the U.S. refugee admissions program. These totals don't include the recent arrivals of Afghan refugees who were allowed to enter the country through a different process related to humanitarian parole or special immigrant visa. When looking at the figures, we can see a clear last-minute effort to boost the processing. At the end of August, the administration had only resettled 7,637 refugees, meaning that in September alone, they processed nearly 3,800 cases, almost half of what did during the previous 11 months. It's encouraging because it means they've built up and they can continue in the future. Now, this has been an issue for President Biden, who has waffled on just how many refugees to let in ever since he entered office. He even said back in February that he would raise the refugee cap to 62,500 for this fiscal year, this being part of the pledge to reach 125,000 within his first year in office. Obviously, that hasn't happened. But he has slow-walked the presidential determination that officially set the new number for the program, forcing refugee resettlement agencies to cancel flights for many people that had been set to be resettled in March. And when Biden finally signed the determination in April, he backtracked significantly, setting the refugee cap at 15,000, the same all-time low used under Trump, infuriating both advocates and congressional Democrats. As you can imagine or remember, this created backlash for him, forcing the White House to raise the cap to 62,500, a number that you could say was aspirational, despite being lower than the 70 to 80,000 under the prior administrations. All of this back and forth has left a lot of people frustrated, not only refugees, but also organizations and advocates. Refugee advocates are complaining that some of their recommendations are being ignored, and this is stalling progress on this issue. Recommendations such as doing virtual interviews or hiring more people to deal with the current backlog of work in the system. They also want the U.S. to expand its referral system beyond the recommendations of those made by the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. UNHCR, broadening the program to refugees who might otherwise be overlooked. When asked about this, the Biden administration just blamed much of the delay on Trump and the previous administration. The reality is some of that blame does go to Trump. However, some of it is also on the Biden administration. Yes, they have competing crises all at the same time. Yes, they are new to their role. Okay, let's see what the future holds. So, looking a bit on the bright side, President Biden already notified Congress of his recommendation to set the refugee cap at 125,000 for this coming fiscal year that just started, though he has yet to sign the presidential determination that makes it official. And you know how that goes. Without that signature, everything can change in a second. Let's just hope that they, in fact, make it official, and more importantly, that it's actually achieved. Moving on with some good news. It was announced that the Biden administration will provide government-funded legal representation to certain unaccompanied immigrant children in deportation proceedings in 8 U.S. cities. What that means is some children that enter the United States alone, meaning without their parents, will get attorneys paid for by the government. This is part of an effort to boost legal access in the immigration court system. This new effort, labeled the Council for Children Initiative, comes months after we have seen a rise in the number of children arriving at the southern border. The rise in children arriving at the border has increased the crisis, leading to overcrowded detention facilities and a scramble to find appropriate locations to hold them. If you add the fact that immigrants in deportation proceedings are generally not provided an attorney by the government if they cannot afford one, you can imagine the difficult situation, especially for children. This new initiative will provide government-funded legal representation, meaning attorneys, to certain children in 8 cities: Atlanta, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, and Portland. As part of these efforts, the Executive Office of Immigration Review, which runs the nation's immigration courts, is also updating training for attorneys who want to handle immigration cases. In a statement issued by David Neer, the head of the Executive Office of Immigration Review, he said that these efforts will ensure that non-citizens and their representatives have more resources and can better understand immigration court proceedings, increasing their legal representation before EOIR and increase the trust of the public in the due process immigration judges provide. Research done by the American Immigration Council shows that children with legal representation, meaning attorneys, historically show up to their court hearings. The group found that in 95% of cases between 2005 and 2016, where a child had an attorney, they showed up to their court proceedings. So, if they have an attorney, 95% show up, compared to 33% when they're not represented. That's a pretty big difference. A limited number of children receive funded attorneys through different process than the one created by the Biden administration. These are strong facts. When thinking about it, a child without a lawyer has a very low chance of showing up in court and winning his or her asylum case, which we all know is complex. Having the right legal advice and attorney makes all the difference in these cases, as immigrants are 5 times more likely to win if they have an attorney than if they don't. There have been other efforts aimed at boosting legal representation for children in court. It's not usually from the federal government. In Baltimore, for example, an initiative was created that provided attorneys to children who were under 16 and had been released from federal custody and had been issued a notice to appear in deportation proceedings. A different initiative was also created to provide attorneys for children in the Southeast. Sadly, both programs ended in 2017. This new effort is the latest attempt to improve the legal process for unaccompanied children who arrive at the border. During the past administration, policies were created that made it harder for children to obtain asylum in the U.S., including one issued by Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the last days of President Trump. Trump officials long complained that unaccompanied minors and their families abuse the immigration system through loopholes that allow them to remain in the U.S. after crossing the border to seek asylum. Biden officials undid the ICE policy, which made it harder for children to gain asylum in the first weeks of his administration. Now, this new initiative is another step in the right direction, aimed to help immigrant children, one of the most vulnerable groups out there. Let's just hope this expands to more cities and could give them the support they need. that brings me to the end of this video. I really hope you find it useful. If you need help with the immigration case, call our office. If we can't help you, we won't take your money. Thank you to everyone who watches our video. I appreciate your likes, shares, and comments. If there's something you want to know about U.S. immigration, write a comment below. We'll try to answer it on our page or in a future video. Thanks for watching. As always, stay healthy and be well.